Okay, so now what we're going to do is look at rescheduling our project. As I said in the very beginning, when you set out to put your project in place, if you don't initially tell it when you want that project to start, it will just assume that you're starting the project on the day that you started putting the project together. And as I said back then, don't even worry about when the project is actually going to start. Get your data in there, get your task in there, set up your relationships and all that. And then when you're ready to figure out when you really want that project to start, then you can do that at any time. So that's what we're going to do first off here. So initially, what we want to do is we want to start the project on, let's say, maybe June 5th. Okay, so June 5 will be the day that we start this project. Now, if you didn't know any better, what most people would do is they would go in there and they would start changing, these dates, the date of the first task there, and that would do it. But again, when we're doing that video on the constraints, as you know, typing in dates can cause problems. All right, so, and it's a lot easier doing it the way that you should be doing it, and I'll show you that to you in just a second here. So what we want to do is we want to tell the project that we want it to start on June 5th, all right? So what we're going to do then is we're going to go up into our menu here, and we're going to go into the Project tab, all right? And then you've got a button here called Project Information. There we go. And it has on here the project start date. And as you can see here, it's set for 3/3. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to change that, okay, to June 5th. You can type in June 5th up here if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use the calendar. Here's June 5th. It's a Wednesday. So I click onto that. We hit OK. And there we go. I mean, that fast. Now, what has happened here is it has changed the entire project because everything is dependent upon each other in some way, either directly or indirectly, because of the linking. You change that start date, I mean, everything down the line changes. Just like that. It's amazing. You can kind of tell that everything changed because you've got that kind of like that light blue highlighting lets you know that all of this has changed. I mean, every freaking date in there is now changed. Why? Because we changed the start date. So the project will start on June 5th, and because we've got this project summary up here, we can see that it ends on 9/5. Now, upon looking at this, you realize that if we start on June 5th, the project is going to end on September 5th. And in your mind, you say to yourself, wait a minute, there's going to be a problem with this because I need to have that thing done by the, let's say by the, I don't know, August, 20th. August 20th is really your deadline. So you've got two options here, and I'm going to show you the first one as well as the second one. But the first one would be that you would go in and you'd say, okay, we're going to go and reschedule the project again, but we're going to reschedule it based on when we want the project to finish. All right, so if we want it to change or finish on 8/20 or 8/25, whatever, then we will schedule it that way. So far what we've done is we've scheduled it from the start date. So it pushed the start date up and everything kind of rescheduled, right? Well, this time around, we're going to schedule it from where it ends at. We're going to say we want it to end on such and such date, and thus it'll pull the project back. And hopefully, it doesn't pull it back beyond what today's date is. All right, so here's what we do. We go back and we go back to project, go to project information, and over in here, we tell it that we want to schedule not from the start date this time, but from the end date or from the finish date. And of course, then what you do here is you plug in that finish date. So in this case, we said we want it to be on August, let's say August 20th. All right. So if it's August 20th, then what's the start date going to be? Well, we just go back and we hit OK, and it goes back. And now what we'll do is I'll just hit my little, go to my task here, go to my scroll to task, it'll push us back. And as you can see here, it wants us to start on then May 20th. So if you start on May 20th, then we'll be able to finish on August 20th. Now, you have to be careful when you do it this way, because now if you forgot that you had done that, all right, and it's a few days later, and you come back and you say, oh, I need to change. So now, okay, let me back up. So you now profess to everybody, hey, we're starting the project on 5/20, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then a few days later pass, and now you realize that you need to change some of the durations here. Now watch this. If I go over here to AB here, which is 2 days right now, and I change that to, let's say, 5 days. Now, normally you're used to expecting it to go out this way, right? But this time it's going to go the other way, right? So when you go ahead and hit the enter key, now watch what happens. It pushed out. Now it has pushed out to 5/15, all right? And if that is something that's set in stone, where like, yeah, that has to be what it is, then you got to go back out and tell everybody, hey, it's actually starting now on 5/15, all right? So if you want to avoid that, you know, in the coming future, for it to be backing up on each time, what you can do now instead is go back into your project tab, go back to project information, change this now back to start date. Don't specify any date, leave it what it is, hit OK, there you are. And now if you go, let's say over to here, well, we'll do here, this one here. So we go to this one here, and I increase it by, you know, 8 days or 9, up to 9 days there, enter it in, it goes out to the right now. And then at least if anything, the news won't be that bad, because people won't have to be rushing and scurrying around. It's like now it's just going to go, you know, further out. But then again, you're backed up against that situation where you're supposed to get it done by the 20th. So you got to work that out, right? So how are you going to work that out? All right. Well, that'd be then the alternative to what we've been doing here, and that is to go in there and either remove certain tasks that will then shorten it up, so we can bring it back, you know, closer to the 20th. We can introduce lead time where we're overlapping. All right, do that kind of thing. So what you can do is you can kind of experiment. You can say, okay, let's say this. Let's say that I'm trying to experiment and try to figure out maybe a task that I could remove. Okay, so instead of just going to a task and killing it off, and you remember doing this on past videos, it's kind of a pain because you got to delete it and then you got to reestablish your links and all that stuff. Well, what we can do instead, and you saw this as well, is if we go back to the task tab while we're on, let's say, the one we're thinking about removing, and we go here and we click on it and activate, well, that pulls it back. And that one right there has brought us back now to the 19th, so it's 1 day before our deadline. That would have worked out great. And we say, well, okay, let's try a different one. So we'll go over here to inactivate, and we'll turn it back on again, so now it pushes it back out again. We go further down, we say, okay, how about this one here? How about if we get rid of this guy here, whatever it is, right? Again, we go back to inactivate. That brings it back to the 19th as well. Okay, so that'd be a good one, all right? What other ones we have here? Let's try, let's go down to, let's say this one right here. Okay, and we say, okay, let's hide that one. Boom. Now, if I do that one, that brings it back to the 23rd. That's not enough, but we say, well, if I pull that one and maybe this one here, okay? So I'll go ahead and activate that one. And now that brings me back to what? The 19th, perfect. So maybe that would be the way to go. Those would be the ones that you'd want to choose, and that's how you could fix it that way. And you can go ahead and then remove those particular tasks and reestablish your relationships like we saw in that other video. Now, the other way to do this. And I'll just leave those in place. Well, actually, I'll tell you, we'll put those back on again. So let's just go back down there. I'll click onto that guy, hit inactivate to reactivate it, and then reactivate that one as well. Okay, so now the other way would be, now that we still see that we're out to the 26, right, is to do the lead time, to pull back and maybe overlap some of our bars. Okay, so let's say, for instance, on this one here, we're thinking that we could pull that back. If we could pull that back maybe a day, and maybe a few other ones, we could fix it up pretty well. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll double click onto the link, right? We'll say that we want 1 day of negative lag, which would be lead time. 1 day of lead time. Hit OK. That pulls that back. And that brings us to the 23rd. Not too bad. All right. And maybe we'll go down a little bit further and we say, okay, this one here, which will be that task there. We'll say that if we can pull that back 2 days. All right. So we'll double click that one. Bring it down 2 days like that. Hit OK. There we go. And we're almost there. We've got 1 more day to go. So maybe this one here we can overlap, right? So we'll double click onto this one here. Bring it down 1 day. Sometimes you might get more because it pulls it off, pulls the future task off of a weekend or something like that. So you might knock off 1 day and get 5 days, you know? So anyway, so we'll hit OK on that. And now I look back up there, and now we're down to the 19th. So we went from the 21st to the 19th. So that 1 day gave us 2 days. All right, perfect. So that would be your alternative to that. All right, let me just show you one other little thing. It's kind of unrelated, but it's related in a way, I guess. When we were kind of changing our duration, we've been usually kind of going over here and just using the arrows, or you can just type in a new number. If you need to make a particular task longer, you can actually do it by way of dragging the bar, believe it or not. And let me show you how this works. If you go to, let's say you want to make this task here, which is 5 days now. Let's say you want to make it 6 days long, okay? So what you can actually do is, if you get on the task and you go over to the end here, you'll get like a perpendicular, I guess, arrow and a line there, right? You hold down the mouse button on that, and it tells you, you know, the date of the task, you know, the end date here, as well as it's being 5 days. Now, as you drag it like this, it'll say 5.5, and then eventually it'll say 6. When you let go, there it goes. There's your 6 days. On the other hand, you take something like this one here and you say, okay, this one is right now at 5 days. I can bring it back to 3 days, just like that. That's pretty easy. And if you need to move a task to a specific start date, what you can actually do is just get right on it, like here. Hold down your mouse and just drag it like this, and you'll see how it kind of changes and tells you, like, right now it's Monday to Tuesday, or Tuesday to Wednesday, and so forth. But whatever you drag it to and let go, it then gives you this, and it says, okay, what do you want to do? I want to move the task and keep the link. Okay, that sounds good. So we'll choose that one, hit OK, and there it goes on that. And of course, by doing that, it gives you also the start no earlier than constraint, which means that if later on you start maybe decreasing the number of days here, where it would in essence pull everything back, this one won't pull back, right? So if I go over here and I make this, let's say, I'll bring this down to 4 days, all right? Hit the enter key, everything pulls back except that one. So got a lot of interesting, you know, tools to work with here. So hopefully this will help. I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you liked it. Take care.